So you've heard of the term Indo-Pacific of late at very many seminars, conclaves, and international forums. What does it really mean? And what is India's role in Indo-Pacific? Earlier, this region used to be called Asia-Pacific. Is it the same region that one is talking about? On Simply Nitin, I'm going to try and deconstruct for you the concept of Indo-Pacific and what is India doing in this geographical area or the entity that is now garnering a lot of eyeballs and is creating a buzz across the world. So essentially, what is Indo-Pacific in India's vision? Prime Minister Modi, in his landmark Shangri-La speech in 2018, had spoken about India's vision for Indo-Pacific and had said it extends from the eastern shores of Africa to that of America in the far east of India, which means this vast expanse of the Indian Ocean here and the Pacific Ocean joining these two oceans together constitutes the Indo-Pacific, is what India thinks. And India would like others to believe and subscribe to that thought process. In the first couple of years after it was propounded in, say, the 2012-2013 period, Indo-Pacific for India and other countries in Asia meant this area of Southeast Asia, especially India's Look East policy, which is now turned into Act East policy. But of late, especially in the past couple of years from 2018, India is also turning its attention to this area, the Western Indian Ocean, which means the area which constitutes the eastern seaboard of Africa, which constitutes Somalia, Djibouti, the Madagascar island here, the Seychelles Islands, Mauritius, and Comoros, which is here. These 4 or 5 islands together are called the Vanilla Islands. And India is now concentrating on trying to do an outreach to these Vanilla Islands. How is it being done? By one, increasing defense cooperation with these countries, having a bilateral defense pact with Seychelles, with Mauritius, with Madagascar especially. In fact, Madagascar was in news when India recently appointed a defense attaché for this small but strategically very significant island of Madagascar, which is east of the eastern shores of Africa. Similarly, India is also increasing its defense cooperation, is helping smaller countries like Seychelles and Mauritius and Comoros with defense infrastructure. And in fact, there is a French territory called Reunion Island, which is right here. Therefore, India's outreach to these countries is resting on 2 or 3 main factors. One is, of course, defense cooperation, posting defense attaches there, and being the first responder in any emergency for what is called HADR, Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Relief. In fact, many of the viewers of this program will recall that the Indian Navy and Coast Guard ships were the first ones to reach Mozambique when there was a big storm that hit the eastern African nation of Mozambique here. So India, from its Western Naval Command, sent ships to Mozambique, and some of the ships were already patrolling in this area. So they went quickly to provide relief to Mozambique that time. Now that is how India is stepping up its presence in Western Indian Ocean through the Vanilla Islands, through HADR, and through defense cooperation with these islands. Why is India doing it? Well, it is because this region, this entire region of Western Indian Ocean is the gateway to Africa. And that is where the much anticipated and much discussed contestation between India and China is taking place here. Remember, Chinese sea lanes of, I mean, these sea lanes of communication for China are extremely important. From South China Sea here, their ships come and go through this passageway, which is extremely important for China in terms of energy supplies and also their export imports of their goods, which is very crucial for the Chinese economy since the Chinese economy is based on exports. So that is where increasing Chinese naval presence is seen in this Western Indian Ocean, apart from what we see in Southeast Asia in the Malacca Straits. And therefore, India, which actually straddles the Indian Ocean, as you can see here in this map, has a claim to be the first responder and net security provider, not just to the countries around it like Sri Lanka, Maldives, but also to these Vanilla Islands and the eastern shores of Africa. As Prime Minister Modi said in his Shangri-La speech, the Indo-Pacific for India stretches from the eastern shores of Africa right up to the Pacific here, covering South Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Far East. And that is where the Indian Navy comes in with a major contribution to this effort that India is doing. Now, how these add-ons are helping India. India has a trilateral maritime cooperation with Sri Lanka, with Maldives, and of course Bangladesh, which also does a joint exercise with India. There is Myanmar here. All these countries, and there is Indonesia here. All these countries have had either bilateral or trilateral naval exercises with India. And India, given the size of its navy, has a large presence where intelligence sharing on maritime domain, on smuggling, on human smuggling, all that is shared by all these countries here. And therefore, the focus, as I mentioned, on the Indian Ocean and specifically on the Western Indian Ocean is now increasing from Indian side, which means that there is going to be a constant jostling between Indian naval ships, Indian presence in these islands, and the increasing forays by the Chinese into these areas. How this will pan out, what implications it will have for geostrategic situation, and of course the bilateral relationship between India and China will have to wait and watch to understand how it will pan out in coming years. Until then, keep watching Simply Nitin every week for deconstructing, simplifying some of the matters that matter to India and to the viewers at large. Please send your feedback, make comments, and also like us on social media platforms. Until then, goodbye.